Hello, 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 hello. My name is NicholassRivas, and I talk about politics and stuff. And today we're going to be talking about Adnan Syed, the accused killer of Heyman Lee. Infamous murder propelled into stardom basically because of the Serial podcast, kind of the podcast that really birthed the podcast movement as we see it today. But as popular as the show is, the murder itself is of course horrific and sad, and so I don't mean to not politicize, if that's the right word. I guess politicize. I guess really dumb down the horrific truth of someone's murder to make it more entertaining. But this young woman was murdered, and the reason I'm talking about it years later is that the accused killer, Adnan Syed, was released. A lot of people, I myself included, have been in the camp of wanting him to be released, but not because we know his innocence. But the case was very much a shit show, and many felt that after listening to Serial, there needs to be some looking into this case. There's a reason the podcast people focused on the story, because it was pretty prolific and it did tell a story of someone who it may not have done it. Now, the family believes that Adnan did commit the murder. They do believe that their daughter, who was in a relationship with Adnan before her passing, was or they were on and off. I believe last before she passed away, they broke up. So, horrible circumstances of this all is first person you think of would be the ex-boyfriend, who, from accounts, was mad that this person was moving on and breaking up with them, and they were having a pretty tumultuous relationship to begin with. So it was the makings of a pretty clear-cut case. Maybe an ex-boyfriend just got mad, took it out on the supposed victim, and so they had maybe fought, maybe had an ongoing battle, and we don't know, and we will never know. But she was found in the woods of Baltimore, killed. Sad, terrible, awful, and the most unfortunate is that the family will probably never get an answer, because Anand was sentenced, and he was found guilty, and so a lot of people feel that his release, because he was just released, was in poor taste, and he's only getting released because he has some sort of notoriety with the true crime world. And I don't know. I don't see that as a fair thing to say. I don't think he was released because of this podcast. I don't think it expedited anything. I'm not seeing anything. I think he was prone to this release since he was first accused. I think he was only getting 20 some years from the get-go. He wasn't, I think it was 30 or 40 years. He wasn't sentenced to life, and he probably was on good behavior. He had some sort of parole, from what I remember. So I don't believe the podcast had that much of effect. I mean, it's hard to always say, because you look at these things and you go, well, I don't think they were zero, right? Like, and you're right. Like, you can't say that having some sort of notoriety, some little bit of fame, doesn't put pressure on the judge. I mean, you can be as unbiased as you want, but in this crazy world we live in, how are you going to escape something as big as a phenomenon as Serial was? So, not discrediting the judge, they could have found themselves being more forgiving because they were a celebrity. But the whole premise of Anand's case was not that he for sure didn't do it, because he had a lot of makings of being the supposed killer. He did. He wasn't the squeaky clean person as many like to believe. He wasn't also this criminal who was a monster. He was a young guy who probably did some stupid shit, made him look really bad, and is now reaping the unfortunate benefits. The big premise of the case, though, this guy was treated badly, poorly. His case was not researched properly. The people at Serial did a great job just asking questions and figuring out why this kid was sentenced for what he did. And he was 17 when he admitted to burying her, or he admitted to the crime. But when he came out immediately and said, I didn't know what I was really saying. I didn't know what I was really signing on to. And the kid didn't have an attorney present. The kid didn't have his family present. And he was 17. That already is a bad sign. And that's what made the case so polarizing, is people said, well, he did admit it. But it's also like, you don't do that to a accused criminal. They need to have a fair shot. They need their lawyer. Now, if you admit to a crime, you think it's kind of done indeed, like dead, but he never really admitted to it. When you look into the Serial podcast, the kid was asked these questions, signing some items that he was just not fully aware of. And we've seen it time and time again with criminal investigations. A lot of police will put pressure, and they just want to get the guy. They don't care who it is, right? And so they were putting pressure on this kid. He obviously faltered. You see it within him. But then there was also accusations of misproper uses of the what is to be his evidence to say that he was there and he did it. From the telephone records that they were pulling from the system and the telephone polls, I guess. I'm not a telephone person expert, but I remember them saying that the technology they used was outdated at best and improper to use how they used it. So when people just wanted to have a follow-up on the case, they were very much in the camp, being the state, of denying that access, denying that power to give to the victim or to the family of Adnan, who they still believe that he did not do it. So I think it was just a botched investigation. It was an improper investigation. It felt as if they didn't really give Adnan a fair chance, maybe because he was Muslim, maybe because he was a foreigner, But all that being said, is the point of the story is that he should have been a retrial, or there should have been some further investigations. And I think 20 some years later, I think it was 2018, that during the HBO documentary that came out recently, I remember watching, they were saying that there was efforts and he was still denied, which at that point you go, oh, hey, it is what it is. But I don't think it was a full trial, I think the release of him was a reversal too, now that I'm remembering it. And so Adnan was basically, in the eyes of the law, now seen as not guilty, if I believe that's how the reversal works. I think through the efforts of it's mostly seen in the HBO documentary, but he has like a good friend who's a Muslim, who's a lawyer. She's actually really cool. I follow her on Twitter, but she was the main focus point of the documentary, and she's been pushing for his retrial and reversal for years and years. And so it's insane to see, but I think the end point is what I want to focus on, is that Adnan may have done it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know it at all, because I remember I listened to the podcast a few years ago. I watched a documentary a few years ago, so I don't know every detail and every fine point. And even though his friend admitted to the crime, admitted that he knew that he did the crimes, there's a lot of things painted against the man. I think without reasonable doubt, you cannot say that this person committed this crime. Because that's the whole point. When you go through a murder investigation, it's without reasonable doubt, right? Like, you can't just, well, I think he did it. Like, that's someone's life. That's a murder case. You don't falter a murder case. So that's, which I agree with. I love that our system is about reasonable doubt. You're not proven guilty until innocent. You're proven innocent until guilty. They have to make up the points of why they believe you did it. And so if you can have some cracks in the case, just how the litigation system should work, you should get out free. You may have done it, but it leaves room for a world where we're not having people who are innocent going to jail. So Adnan is a perfect case of this, where he may have done it. He may have been, in the stars align, he would be the perfect perpetrator of this crime. But I think believing in our system for what it is, and that it's flawed, but I think it should be applicable to everyone. So just my big rant on it. Crazy to see that he's been released, but yeah, I will let you all go. So thank you so much. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Plane established overhead.
Gas mine armed.
We lost A. Enemy air patrol inbound. Losing Charlie. Victory's close. Wrap it up and let's go. Enemy ground strike incoming. Taking Alpha. Multiple hostile spy planes detected. Enemy is Charlie. You made that look easy. Bravo Zulu.
Good fight, my friends.